You're listening to the Lakewood Vineyard Podcast. We are part of a family of neighborhood churches called the Mile High Vineyard. For more information about our church or those we are connected to, please go to lakewoodvineyard.org. Stay tuned at the end of our podcast for ways you can respond personally to what you've just heard.
We are in a series that we're calling we're going through the fruit of the Spirit. We're working through the fruit of the Spirit. And does anybody want to guess, based on the Connect Card song, what today is? There you go, faithfulness. Somebody's paying attention. Faithfulness. Faithfulness is an interesting thing in our culture. Less and less do we see faithfulness displayed and exhibited in our culture. I'm a big sports guy, so naturally I observe how this shows up in things like sports. More and more, athletes don't have an allegiance or a faithfulness to a sports team. Some of it's practical. You got to chase the money. Even more so, though, is what we've observed for those of you who pay attention to the college sports. Now I'm going to lose 30% of the room here. There's this thing called NIL, name and likeness, in college, where now college athletes are effectively professional athletes in which they can pursue money. But what it's also done is they have this thing called the transfer portal. It used to be that you would commit to a school and you would attend that school for the 4 years of your college life. Now, athletes are actually transferring every single year to a different school. They're just jumping, and most of it's because they're chasing money and opportunity. It's kind of like the Wild West, and everybody acknowledges this is a mess. There's tons of unintended consequences when faithfulness is removed in culture. I recall back to the college years of, we had these clubs at the college I went to, and I decided to join a club, not because of what I felt it would necessarily do for me, but I looked at what I wanted to do for it. It was like a middling club within the hierarchy of clubs, but I had a vision for myself that could we make this club one of the best sports clubs on campus. Now that might seem a little shallow, but there's something to it that I think I wanted to invest in something and see it grow and become more than it was. I think this is maybe this thing in me is what has created that desire to plant a church, sort of an entrepreneurial vision of what does it look like for the people of God if we were to gather in our city and faithfully live and serve together for the sake of the city, to see people come to know Christ and have their lives transformed right where we're at. As we get into Scripture, I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to read a whole book of the Bible. Are you guys ready? It's 3 John, so it's less verses than most passages that we do. But I just wanted to see what your reaction. That was kind of fun. Here we go. And I just want to draw some observations from 3 John, and it's an interesting letter. Has anybody ever heard a sermon on 3 John? I don't know if I have. So this is this should be fun. This could be interesting. I want to notice and observe as I read this letter a reflection, a rebuke. I just spaced out my third R. And a rebuttal, that's what it was, and a rebuttal. So John, the apostle, the brother of Jesus, is writing to a friend. And this is what he said. The elder, to my dear friend Gaius, whom I love in truth. Can I say real quick, if anybody has another baby boy, I want you to think about just maybe Gaius. There's some great names in the Bible that I think you could do it, Andy. Tobias, Gaius. If you have a third one, we'll figure that out. It's like alliteration. Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. Okay, now this is a master class in writing letters. We have lost the art of writing great letters to each other. So just pay attention, just great stuff here. It gave me great joy when some believers came and testified about your faithfulness to the truth, telling how you continue to walk in it. Parents, here you go. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. Dear friend, you are faithful in what you are doing for the brothers and sisters, even though they are strangers to you. They have told the church about your love. Please send them on their way in a manner that honors God. It was for the sake of the name that they went out, receiving no help from the pagans. We ought therefore to show hospitality to such people so that we may work together for the truth. I wrote the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. So when I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, spreading malicious nonsense about us. Not satisfied with that, he even refuses to welcome other believers. He also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone. That's it. Andy, Demetrius, that'll be the third one. Tobias, Gaius, Demetrius, we got it. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone. Parents, why would you not want to name your kid Demetrius? And even by the truth itself, we also speak well of him. And you know that our testimony is true. I have much to write you, but I do not want to do so with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we will talk face to face. Peace to you. The friends here send their greetings. Greet the friends there by my name. So, based on this letter, I just want to make some quick observations of what faithfulness is and what faithfulness is not. First, we see faithfulness is a commitment to the truth. Do you live in such a way that someone would be compelled to write a letter to you and affirm and bless your commitment to the truth? We live in a world where truth is relative. The narrative that, well, it's my truth. It's my, I have these ways of being. There is a truth, and we're called to be committed to the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. The second thing is a commitment to hospitality. There is something profound in reflecting the nature of God when we practice hospitality. How do you practice hospitality? To live a life faithfully is to practice hospitality, as John writes. And this is a way of living. It's not just like, maybe some of you think, oh, hospitality is I have to have people over for dinner. I mean, yes, that's a definitely good option. You should do that. But you should embody hospitality wherever you're at. How can you practice hospitality in your workplace, in your social world, in reflecting? And it says he's affirming welcoming strangers. I experienced this firsthand, a reflection of generosity and hospitality in just the way John's describing and affirming when we were missionaries in the Philippines. And it was really profound and impacting because just as I was thinking about it contextually, the amount of generosity and hospitality that the people there displayed when we would travel around, and I would speak at different churches. They would ask me to come speak at a conference or speak at a church. And I remember one town in particular with their church that I came in, and the pastor insisted that we sleep in their bed. And they had, made it up nice. And they had actually gone to the level of sacrifice that they bought a fan and had a fan installed in their home. Now, I want you to think about this. These people make less than $4 a day. That fan probably costs $60. In addition to that, they had a hog roasted. They did a pit roast hog, which is one of the things they do once a year in a huge celebration. So they essentially sacrificed over 2 weeks of income, and I'm sure they took collections within the church just to do this, just to show appreciation of me coming. That's disorienting. I like to consider myself a generous person. I like to consider, hey, I tithe. That feels generous. There is in no way, now I have done some crazy stuff when God compels me, but it's not just in my radar to go, I'm going to give up 2 weeks' wages just because somebody is coming to town. But what if we just got hints of this? What if we're just so stirred up in our thankfulness and our gratitude for what God has done? I was reflecting about that in worship as we're singing those songs, as Jeremy is drawing out and making that point of what if our attitudes are that God has been so good to us. This is why we say it. We try to say on Sundays that we give as God has been generous to us. That we're generous and we can practice hospitality because we realize of God's goodness and we can't help but respond. And then let's draw the observation of what hospitality is not. Hospitality is not putting yourself first and having selfish ambition. You notice that line there where he says, he likes to put himself first. The thought I had come to my mind is one of the most vibrant churches that I've known in Colorado with a great pastors pastored there for decades is Timberline Church in Fort Collins. Maybe if there's any CSU grads, you probably know Timberline Church. Watched that church grow from 100 people to 10,000 people. And their statement was, let love live. But I remember one of the most impactful things he said, are you the type of person who walks in a room and says, here I am, or do you walk in the room and say, there you are? To embody hospitality is to be the kind of person who walks into any room and says, there you are. That people feel seen because you've received the love of God. You're so settled in yourself that you don't have to make it about you. And I'll just say hostility is the antithesis of hospitality. That we might be people of peace and unity that bless and don't curse. It's so profound and interesting to see John literally talk about a leader in the church and say, that is evil. That's intense. But there can be personalities and people in the church that are so about themselves that it actually is a reflection of evil and not the goodness of God. When we embody gratitude, we can't help but reflect with generosity and hospitality because of what God has done in our life. And I want us to be people that get curious about what hospitality could look like. Like, how could we grow in hospitality and how it might impact those around us in ways we might never imagine. I've been talking about Convoy of Hope, and we've been talking about this one-day offering, and we've been highlighting some of the ways Convoy of Hope is responding to crisis, that's one of the main things they do, is respond to tragedy, weather disasters, all those things all across the world. And it's amazing, but I would like to show the story of the founder, Hal Donaldson, how his story, he has a story that he shares, and how hospitality impacted his life and led to what today is Convoy Hope, just out of the experience of his own story. I want to show this to you, then I'll come back up.
We never set out to start Convoy of Hope. It was really just out of the heart that we felt like we needed to try and do something. My father was a pastor of a small church. He didn't make a large income. So our family, we did struggle financially. In 1969, my parents were scheduled to attend a business meeting, and the babysitter that we were going to stay with that night was late. My dad was halfway down the road when he looked in his rearview mirror, and he spotted the babysitter pulling into our driveway. So my dad made a U-turn, dropped the four of us kids off, and we would spend the night with the babysitter after all. About an hour and a half later, there was a knock at our door, and there standing in front of me were two uniformed police officers. And they had come to deliver the news that our parents had been hit by a drunken driver. My father was killed instantly. My mother was seriously injured. But I'll never forget that night because a lot of friends and neighbors began to gather in our front yard, and the police officer stepped up to the porch and he addressed the crowd. And he just said, "Are there any family members or friends here tonight who are willing to take the children home with them?" And that night, Bill and Levada Davis, a young couple with two kids of their own, they said, "We'll take them." And we lived with the Davises for many months in their small trailer. And I think it's because of the Davises that I didn't become bitter. I owe them a lot. Having experienced injustice, I wanted to be a proponent of justice. And I thought maybe the way to do that was through being a reporter. Right out of college, I took a job as a ghostwriter. And one of those book writing projects took me to Calcutta, India, to write a book for missionaries Mark and Huldah Buntain. When I landed, they said, "Well, we want you to interview Mother Teresa for our book." And in the course of that interview, she turned the tables on me. And she said, "Young man, let me ask you, what are you doing to help the poor and the suffering?" I said, "I'm really not doing much of anything." And she responded in a very kind way. She said, "Everyone can do something. Just do the next kind thing that God puts in front of you." I remember going back to my hotel room, and I just remember the tears flowing. I'll never forget that night. Open the window and hear the cries of the poor. All I can say is that it began the work in my heart. And I just felt compelled to travel to 8 cities and to live in the streets for 3 days and 3 nights. Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, DC, New York. And the experience of those cities wrecked me. I had the opportunity to interview drug addicts and gang members, prostitutes, runaways, the homeless. I was so conflicted in my heart. I had seen so much. I felt so dirty, and I had to do something. And so I just emptied my bank account, went out to the grocery store, bought $300 worth of groceries, and drove the pickup truck that I'd borrowed from a guy in our church into the migrant farm workers and just started passing out groceries to people. The gratitude, the smiles I saw on their faces was incredible. And so I pulled together some of my friends and family members, and I said, "Hey, we're gonna do what we're gonna call Care Days. Where we go in, we're gonna take in pickup trucks and U-Haul trailers, we'll take in groceries into parks, into streets." It was just a group of people that said, "Hey, let's try and do something. Let's see where it goes." We never set out to start Convoy of Hope. It was just trying to, if you will, vent my heart to do something. Doing something is always better than doing nothing. But I remember the first year, my wife and I had given everything we could. I gave God an ultimatum. I said, "God, if you don't do something significant by the Fresno, California outreach, then we're going to hand this baton off to someone else." A man that I had met maybe once came up at the outreach and he handed me an envelope. And I opened it up, and inside was a check for $25,000. But here's the thing that I will never forget. There was a note inside that envelope. and the note said, God is with you. And they had underlined the word is. I looked down, I read that note. I couldn't even speak. Something broke loose in the heavens that day. That moment, it wasn't the money, it was the note. I knew God was speaking. Mathari Valley is one of the poorest places on the planet, where 750,000, 800,000 people live in really unbelievable poverty. And I was visiting it for a story I was writing. The photographer who was with me that day said, you know, Convoy of Hope could make a difference here. Well, honestly, that had not even crossed my mind. I thought Convoy of Hope really was focused on the United States. That kind of triggered something inside of me, and I thought a lot about that. And fast forward maybe 3 years, and we had started a feeding program in Mathari. It was fulfilling to see, you know, hundreds of kids standing in line. But we found that many of the mothers of these children were coming to the feeding program, and they were just standing around. What if we could train those mothers? What if we could help them have employment? Then they would be feeding their own children. After the first year, I think we had about 200 women that we had served, and we saw the potential. We were seeing opportunities too to provide the community by helping the farmers grow their yields maybe 100, 200, 300%. It's one thing to have a feeding program for children. It's quite another to have a women's empowerment program. It's another thing to have a program that helps the farmers. But if you bring them all together, what you're doing is you're multiplying. You're not adding, you're multiplying the impact in a community. And we've seen communities come to life. We've seen families come to life because of the integration and not being solely focused on one. This is just the beginning. It's not the end. It's just the beginning. Millions and millions of people are going to receive help. They're going to experience lasting change. They're going to escape poverty. That pickup truck, that $300, will be multiplied many times over. It's just the beginning. The script has already been written. Our job is just don't mess it up. Just don't mess up the script, because it's a beautiful script.
Everyone can do something. This is why I just want to tell that story, just so you get a deeper understanding of why this is our favorite nonprofit that we partner with, because of the exponential impact of the way when we give money, they multiply it over and over and over again for impact. And Riley and I, my oldest, had an opportunity to go out. We were in Springfield, Missouri. He was doing some college visits. And we actually got to visit the Convoy headquarters. And I've said for a while now that I want to work for Convoy of Hope when I grow up. And so we got to go and see their new world headquarters and distribution and training center. And so I just want to take you through a couple of these pictures of we met with Brian McLeese, who's the Convoy rep to the Vineyard. And flip to the next picture. You'll see there's Brian in the middle with us, and sweet, sweet man of God, Vineyard pastor that now works for Convoy of Hope and creating partnerships. And if you can see that picture of that warehouse, the picture of us with the warehouse in the back, that massive warehouse is full of the supplies so that they can respond in a moment whenever the need arises. And it's incredible, just the way their systems work. You can go to the next picture. You can see here, I want to point out, like, this is the lobby of their training center. And when we were there, I don't know if can you see it? Can you see the giant screen over here? It says Hurricane Helene. And one of the things they're so great is reminding the people that work for Convoy, holding the vision in front of them, what are we doing right now? What is the impact we're making right now? What's the most urgent thing? And then these other pictures I want to point out, there's Brian. He's in a greenhouse. They have a property just off from the headquarters where a guy by the name of Dr. Dirt works, and Dr. Dirt has a doctorate in soil. And his whole team, their whole point is to improve supporting the farmers across the world in the practices that help them grow greater crops and gains. And they've got some pretty cool stuff. You see there's a chicken coop. I took a picture of that just for Jess Padgham. That was for you, Jess. And then the next slide. I just want to show you a couple of these machines. These are machines that have basically been invented by people that are partnering with Convoy Hope. And it's what is that, Aaron, like your phone? What's your phone, the kind of phone it is where it's, you get to unlock it and do your own thing. And what's that called? What is it? Linux, like Linux. Open source. That's what I'm looking for. I don't have any technology thing. This is essentially an open source tractor in which these materials can be sourced in any country and built. And then they pay to have these things built for the farmers and the projects, and then they can tweak and adjust, and it's exponentially improved their ability to work where they would not be able to take in John Deere and all those stuff. If they break down, you can't fix a John Deere in a third world country. These things have all the components are easily replaceable and fixable. And then that's a machine, the brand new machine they're working on, some proprietary stuff that they're trying to open source, where all those things are that way. So those are just some of the cool things. Do we have any other pictures? I don't remember if there's any other pictures. Oh yeah, and I just took a picture of this. This is where they constantly hold and remind their people, this is what we're up to. So they're celebrating. In 2003, 571,000 children regularly fed in their feeding programs. 48,000 women and girls empowered. That means that they've invested in them, they've started businesses, and they've got thriving businesses and sustainable. 30,000 participants trained in agriculture, 86 disaster responses worldwide in 2023. 66 countries served, 17 million pounds of resources distributed. Since 1994, 250 million people served. 2.5 billion worth of supplies been given to those in need. This is what it means for us. When we do this, isn't just like tokenism. This is what it means to partner in the kingdom of God, of what God is doing in his redemptive work. That we practice generosity and hospitality. That's why these things are holistic. We do it here, but then we are also partnering to have impact across the world. That our sacrifice and investment makes a difference. So I just want to see us as a church stirred up in generosity and hospitality. The New Testament speaks about this all the time, that they were stirred up. The Spirit of God stirred them up in such a way that they couldn't help but respond. I want us to grow in our imagination as a church of what it could look like for us to make bigger impact year over year, that each year we grow a little bit. I'm wondering, I think we've topped out as a church at like 13,000 for a one-day offering. And I want to imagine, can we get over 15? Could we get to 16? Could we get to 17,000? And all this money is complete pass-through. Whatever comes in for one day, it's complete pass-through and goes 100% to Convoy. Above and beyond our tithes and offering, this is a way for us to exercise generosity and hospitality to those in need that we may never meet. That we have an impact in the slums in Africa, in Mexico. That we're equipping the hands and feet of Jesus across the world. The writer of Hebrews, it just haunts me, it sticks with me. It says, it tells of the ways that the church operates, and we were entertaining angels unaware. That when we do these things, something is transformed in our life. Our cars will come and go. We're always going to have home maintenance. We're always going to have to pay rent and pay utility bills. But when we do this, there's lasting impact that we may never know, that you might be the Davises to the next Hal Donaldson in some way. Parents, those of you dedicated your babies, those of you raising your kids in this church, we as parents, you know, it's the profound thing, there's this saying, fathers are the only ones that want their sons to do better than they did. I dream, like, Riley actually came away from that experience and goes, man, I think it'd be cool to work for Convoy. I'm like, that's right, come on, let's go. What is the harvest that's above and beyond anything we could imagine that God wants to produce in us and through us? That's the fruit. Remember, we don't produce the fruit. He produces the fruit. As we partner with him, the fruit is revealed.
Thanks for listening to the Lakewood Vineyard podcast. We encourage you to respond to what you've just heard by sharing a prayer request with us on our Connect card. You can find these on our app or our website at lakewoodvineyard.org/connect. You can also respond by being generous as God has been generous to you. If you'd like to give a financial gift, you can do so at lakewoodvineyard.org/give. We hope to hear from you soon. Thanks for listening.